The Florida Gators have done it again. They added 3 more monsters to their 2026 recruiting class.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. Happy Thursday. I'm Brandon Olsen. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI. Today's episode of Locked On Gators is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. And similar to yesterday, where yesterday we talked about tight end commit Kekua Amua, running back commit Carson Baker, and wide receiver commit Marquez Daniel. We did our scouting report there. Today, we are hitting scouting reports for defensive lineman JaReylan McCoy, offensive lineman Javari Lucas, and offensive lineman Tyler Chukuyem, where we're going to just talk about the players that Florida's adding. Yes, last night they added CJ Bronaugh. We will talk about that tomorrow. Probably is going to be when we talk more about that. But we've been doing scouting reports for every player in this class, and once we catch up to the most recent one, we'll have it all done, and then we'll get into rankings. Again, at least where I rank the players. But JaReylan McCoy, defensive lineman, the 3-4-5, right? He's the 3-star on 24/7. He's the 4-star on On3 and Rivals. He's a 5-star on ESPN. And last night, he even tweeted, and I need to pull it up, but he tweeted, 24/7 Sports doesn't even have a camp. Why would I waste time worrying about them? Which I will say, you know, I feel like with rankings, we know how politicized it's been, so not wrong there. Again, my stance is I don't like the national people and the people that do the rankings, but the local writers, love them. Listed as 6'6", 6'7", 245 pounds. And look, outside of a couple of clips, the only things that I were really able to find, the only film I was really able to find on JaReylan McCoy was from his sophomore season. So we can assume that he's better than what we've really seen. And with that being said, here's what we've really seen. First off, on film, you'll see him line up all over the defensive line. So he's already doing that. He lines up at the 4-eye. He'll line up at the 5-tech, the 7-tech. And I think that he can go and play the 9. I know that that's usually not where people that are his size are lining up, but I think that that's something he'll still be able to do. Also, I realized I just threw the numbers at you. 4-eye is on the inside shoulder of the tackle. So if I'm the left tackle and you're lined up here, like on my shoulder, on the inside shoulder, you're a 4-eye. If you're a 5, you're on the outside shoulder. If you're a 7, you're on the inside shoulder of the tight end. So similar to where you're lined up for the 4-eye, just that against the tight end. So you see him line up all over there. And again, I think he could play the 9 at the next level, especially where people are bigger. And there's just more room to work there. Like, I think you can handle that one fine. I think he's just going to be a really versatile piece. And you could see it on film. He's just stronger than everybody that he plays against. And we'll talk about that with a couple of guys today. But he's just stronger than everybody he plays with. And it doesn't look like he's playing bad competition so much. He just looks like a monster next to them. But again, he is a giant person. He's listed some places as 6'7", 245. Like, he's just a big dude. Throws offensive linemen around. Super long arms. I think it was 24/7 said that he has 36-inch arm length, which is crazy. 36-inch arm length. That's a yard. that's 3 feet. That's a yard. That's crazy to me. And so just insanely long arms there. His eyes are in the backfield at all times. Like, you watch him when he's playing, we'll say, just when he's got contain, I guess, his eyes in the backfield. When he's rushing the passer, eyes in the backfield. When he's rushing wide, eyes in the backfield. Rushing inside, eyes in the backfield. Like, every time you see him play, he's got his eyes in the backfield. He's looking at the quarterback. He's watching the quarterback. He's chasing the freaking quarterback. And he's just getting after them. But he's just someone that eyes constantly in the backfield. And so to have him just watching and be able to play everywhere, which again, lining up all throughout the formation, doing the little things well, it's at least promising, right? Shouldn't give up much contain. On film, you see him chase down running backs like from behind. I don't just mean, oh yeah, he chased him down to the sideline. I mean, like you see him chasing down running backs, which, I mean, who doesn't like to see defensive linemen chase down running backs? I played with the only D1 player to ever come out of my high school. I was on his team, and that dude was hawking people down. It was crazy because we are very, very low level. But that was just insane to see. And it kind of, obviously, this is way more impressive than that. But it kind of reminded me of that. You see JaReylan McCoy use a rip move, but needs a lot of work. And here's the thing also, because I'm not trying to be hypercritical of these players at any given day. I'm not trying to be hypercritical of these players. But I do feel like, especially in the trenches, a lot of what you're looking for in high school is guys that have the height, the length, the size, just the athleticism and the size, and the physical traits to be great, and then you coach the technique. We talk about that all the time with trench guys. Skill guys, yeah, you can get by on other things more, but when we talk about trench guys and the quality of trench play in college football in the SEC, I feel like a lot of guys are increasingly high school players just have the physical traits. And then it's if you're a good coach, he's going to work out. And JaReylan McCoy, I do think, is another one of those players where he's incredibly raw, right? He's a massive dude, has the athletic traits to be great, genuinely, but he's just super raw on film. Like, again, he has the rip move, but doesn't really, it's not super effective. And again, when we're watching high school players, like the fact that you're doing an actual move, I don't hate, because there's so many times you just see them plow through smaller offensive linemen. So I just like having the wherewithal, I guess, to use those moves, because a lot of times also high school players, it's just like, I'm going to see the ball, get the ball. If I'm more athletic, I'm more this, I'm more that. And to be able to be like, all right, they're going to snap the ball, then I'm going to actually mentally do a move. I feel like that is a generally pretty good sign, because, again, we see so many high school kids just get by on, I'm just going to out-athlete you and use no technique. And so to at least have something there that's reminiscent of a little bit of a pass rush move, I think is positive. And again, he's just a giant. He's a big dude. He's an athletic guy. And this is sophomore film. He's supposed to be more raw then. So there's just looking at him, like, I look at JaReylan McCoy more as someone that, like, in an NFL draft room, assuming or trying to just relate this to an NFL draft room, they're going to look at him and say, hey, he's got the tools to be awesome, but we just need to coach him, which is what these guys are getting paid high 6 figures, 7 figures for. You can find the talent, get the talent, coach the talent, and make the talent great. And so JaReylan McCoy falls in that with just insane athletic traits, insane ceiling. Can't wait to see him put it all together. We are going to talk about offensive linemen for the rest of the day. It's big, ugly football here on Locked On Gators. You ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all of my money go? Well, between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's pretty easy to lose track. And that's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. So you can track all of your accounts, all of your investments, and all of your spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year with monarchmoney.com. Thanks again for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever listen to the podcast and on YouTube. And sometimes we're available twice a day. Sometimes we've been available 3 times a day. I think we've even had one day where we did 4. We do it. It's fun. But the next player that we are talking about is offensive tackle Javari Lucas, or offensive lineman Javari Lucas. Played right tackle in high school. 3-star and on 3 and 24/7, unranked on ESPN and Rivals. Not surprised there. And honestly, I think he'll get ranked eventually by ESPN and Rivals, but I don't know. I don't think he's much of a riser, to just be honest there. Looking at his film right away, I don't know if he's got the footwork in pass protection to stay at offensive tackle long term, which I don't think is one. I don't think that's as glaring a knock as I think many people think. And two, I don't think it's a bad thing like that. I think that oftentimes with high school to college, you see guys that they play tackle in high school, and then you get to college and it's like, yeah, well, you're probably not going to hang there. And we see guys all the time in the NFL going from college where you could play tackle in college, and then you're going to the NFL and it's like, well, maybe you're not going to hang there. Like, it's just not going to work. It's just not going to happen. And I think a lot of it comes down to footwork. We used to talk about how much it would be, height or arm length. And that's kind of gone by the wayside a little bit now. I mean, you've got Mekhi Becton's a giant. He moved to guard from tackle. Giants are moving Evan Neal from tackle to guard right now. And so it's less about actually being big enough to play tackle and more about, are you nimble enough? And I think that that's where I land on Javari Lucas. Is I don't know if he's nimble enough on his feet in pass protection to stay at offensive tackle long term. I mean, just not to constantly bring up the Giants, but just yesterday we were at Giants mini camp. It was the last day of mini camp, and we had offensive tackle, right tackle. Jermaine Illuminor was at the podium, and he was talking about Evan Neal moving from tackle to guard. And he was pointing out that at tackle, a lot of it's a patience position. You got to get into your set, and you're reacting to what an edge rusher is doing or what a blitzer is doing, whatever's happening there. But you're getting back into your set and you're reacting to things. And so you got to be able to quickly shift and move. And at guard, it's less so, because at guard, you're right in front of a defensive tackle. They snap the ball, defensive tackle's coming in. Like, you're going to have to manage that right away anyway. So you kind of got to get thrown into the mix. And so I think that the way to look at tackle, especially with pass protection, is it's about being nimble on your feet and having that footwork to work in more of a patience game. Whereas on the interior, it's just, we're going to get muddy and we're going to fight. And that's kind of how I look at it now. And so that's why when watching Javari Lucas, I was like, I don't know if he's going to be a tackle long term. But I do think that he's capable of working inside and playing inside. He wins his reps and he moves people right off the jump. I will say, similar to JaReylan McCoy, Javari Lucas he looks considerably bigger than a lot of his matchups. I do think that Javari Lucas will need to gain strength to move people in the SEC, but this is also important. I'm not going to keep harping on the whole, trench guys or less developed coming into college. But I am going to say that Javari Lucas has openly, in interviews, said, I'm going to Florida to get developed. Like, that's the selling point here. I'm not worried about playing early. The selling point for me is who's going to develop me. And so for Javari Lucas, I'd imagine you go, okay, well, Rob Sale at Florida has had 2 3-star offensive linemen get developed into being All-American players. That's a pretty good selling point for development there. And so for Javari Lucas, he's going there to develop. He's going there because he's going to need to get stronger. He's going to need to work out and get into, I don't want to say he's in bad shape, but to just get into better shape, get into SEC shape. He's going there for development. It's not a knock. Relentless pursuit of his assignment. Like, that's a thing that you're always going to see, I think, from these Florida offensive line targets, because that's always been a thing that Rob Sale's looking for. Rob Sale's looking for big athletic guys that are aggressive. We don't want big athletic guys that, let's just say, look like Tarzan, play like Jane. Like, we don't want that at offensive tackle. Or offensive line. We want you to be big, mean, and angry. And Javari Lucas is that. In pass protection, one thing he does do pretty well, actually, is use his long arms to his advantage. Gets his hands on defenders first, and his longer arms, he's there first. He's winning those battles more often than not. And also, his hand usage, I feel like, is generally, for a high school player, pretty decent. I do. It gets a bit wide sometimes. Going to need to rein it in a little bit and get more consistent with it. But I feel like he's not that bad as far as playing in pass protection with his hands. It's his footwork that worries me more, which also in pass pro. He got beat on an inside counter move that got him, which, again, high school kid. I don't expect you to be able to handle all these things, which is one of the reasons Tyler Chukuyem's film was very impressive to me. We'll talk about that in a couple minutes, but that getting beat by the inside counter move is one of the reasons that I'm not saying I don't view him as a long-term offensive tackle, but is one of the reasons I could see him moving into guard. I think it's going to be his best spot. I'll say that. That's how I will phrase it. Not that I think he needs to move into guard. I think his best spot would be guard. And I think that a lot of that just comes down to footwork. I could also see the Giants treating Javari Lucas kind of like Bryce Lovett light. I think Bryce Lovett has higher athletic upside, and I think that raises his ceiling and floor just overall. But I could see the Gators kind of going, hey, we're going to treat Javari Lucas. I might have said Giants a minute ago. We're going to see Javari Lucas, train him like Bryce Lovett. We're going to teach you how to play right tackle for us. We're going to teach you how to play right guard for us. We're going to teach you how to play left guard for us. And while you might not have a set position that everyone views you at and that people might think you're better at this spot than that spot, whatever it may be, you're going to be someone who we can just plug and play wherever you're needed. You know, if you're not a starter and our right guard's out for a game, you could slide in. You're not a starter, our right tackle's out for a game, you could slide in. Just having that guy that is kind of a swing, like how in the NFL we often talk about bringing in, a swing veteran tackle, where it's just like, hey, he's a guy that can play both tackle spots, and that's his job. He's not supposed to start. I can kind of view Javari Lucas like that as a long-term developmental piece. Maybe fifth year as a starter somewhere. And by somewhere, I mean still at the University of Florida. I just mean, I don't know what position. But someone that I view as that is his more value. He's going to have more value as a guy that's just a swing offensive lineman that can play wherever is needed. And there's a ton of value in guys like that. Genuinely, look at how often one injury completely derails an offensive line, derails an offense, can derail a season. Having guys that could step in and play multiple spots is huge for the success of teams in modern football. We've got one more guy to talk about. It's Tyler Chukium, offensive lineman. We'll talk about him on Locked On Gators. Thanks again for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. And to wrap up today's show, we are talking about the Florida Gators' second most recent commit in offensive tackle Tyler Chukuyem. He was the most recent commit up until, yesterday, but that's where we're at now. 4-star and on 3, 3-star and 24/7, unranked on ESPN and Rivals. Listed as 6'6", 290 pounds. And the first thing you can see when you put on his film is that he is just aggressive. Like that's the big selling point. He is aggressive. He's mean. He body bags people. It's disrespectful how he treats other people on a football field. And I love it. Like he's just super aggressive. He's just bigger than people, and he knows it, and he uses it. Like, I think there's a difference if you want to watch. I think there's a difference in watching like a Javari Lucas and Tyler Chukium, where I can see that you're just way bigger than people, or I can see that you're way bigger than people and way stronger than people. And I think that that's a big difference there between Javari Lucas and Tyler Chukium, which I'm so sorry if I'm pronouncing that last name wrong. But I think that that's a big difference, where Tyler is body bagging people emphatically. And I don't think Javari Lucas does it emphatically. I think he does it aggressively, just doesn't do it, with as much oomph there, which also makes sense. There's a reason Tyler Chukuyem is a higher rated player, more valued player. That's what it is. And Tyler Chukuyem is someone that I expect to be a riser in this class with the rankings, where unranked on ESPN and Rivals, 3-star and 24/7. I'm going to say he'll probably be a guy that's a 4-star on 3 services and a 3-star on 1 or something like that, which going to bump him up considerably. He decent athleticism. Like you could just watch it in his first few plays. Like you see him when he takes his first pass set, gets good width, gets good depth, works in pass pro, like has active feet, chopping feet, move. Like he looks nimble. He looks like a dancing bear out there. So that's the kind of like pass protection set that I look at and I go, all right, like that's what you should look like in pass pro. That's the footwork that we're looking for there. You watch him in the screen game or on just outside runs, and he's getting out in space and he's hitting people. He's just laying people out if they're in the way. He's going after people. You know, he's not freaking Trent Williams, but he's going out there and he's lighting people up on screens and outside runs, and he's downfield blocking, and he's making plays there. You watch the film, and I feel like I don't think I usually look for what kind of plays they're running all the time on some of the offensive line plays, but I feel like I saw it a few times on Tyler Chukuyem's film where they're running outside zone, and considering Florida likes to run outside zone, it's just fun to see, similar to Kekua Omua, how I was talking about the usage there. And I'm like, okay, well, he's being used kind of like how Florida uses Hayden Hansen. Similar size. I want to see him do those things. It's nice to see players be used in ways that are going to translate to the SEC. They're going to be translated to Florida, where they're being used to do things now that they're going to do things in the future. And for Tyler Chukuyem, you see that with his zone blocking. He looks pretty comfortable running it already. There was one play where he passed off a stunt, and I've got to be honest, I don't remember the last time I've seen a high school offensive tackle or high school offensive line successfully do that. So I was just, that was one of those things where like it's part of the scouting report, but I was also just impressed at doing it. Like I just thought that was a really impressive thing to see from high school offensive linemen, but a high school offensive tackle as well. Because the guard plays a part in that as well. And so you see the stunt, he passes it off, and it's like, all right, well, damn, genuinely, I was just very surprised by seeing that, very pleasantly surprised by seeing that. Once Tyler Chukium gets his hands on a defender, it's wraps. Like he's not really doing much after that. Again, he looks pretty strong. He's pretty nimble on his feet, so he could stay in front of people, keep his hands on. He looks pretty nimble. He looks pretty strong. So once he gets his hands actually on defenders, it's tough to get out there. Pad level, not perfect. I think that it's decent for someone that is, 6'6", 6'7"-ish. He looks in that range. Or he's listed as 6'6". Could be, I guess, as short as 6'5", as tall as 6'7". But pad level looks pretty decent for someone of his size. Again, I think that's one thing that is overlooked with just college programs is get a guy up to your college level and then work on his flexibility as well. We always talk about gaining weight, losing weight, and just, getting stronger, whatever that may be, just shedding fat, any of that. And I feel like one thing that's often overlooked is cardio and just your flexibility. Like they do yoga, they do all these things to be more flexible and to develop in ways that you're not really going to see by just looking at a person. You got a guy who he's a tank in the weight room. You could just see that. And you're not going to know if he's nimble or not. And there's guys that I think, they don't look super nimble on film in high school. They get to college and all of a sudden they start looking a bit more agile, look more athletic, look more nimble. And I think that's one thing that's often overlooked there. So not a big concern. Again, it's just a thing that I'm interested to see how that development goes. I will say I love the aggressiveness from Tyler Chukium, but he needs to be, in my opinion, a little bit smarter with the shoving, right? And look, I love it. I understand wanting to shove people. I get it. If I were that big and I were an offensive tackle, I'd be shoving people too all the time. I beat you in a rep, I'm shoving you. Simple as that. And it's on the film. It's aggressive. It's mean. It's nasty. I love that. But just shove them down more because there's a couple times where he shoves them just like straight forward and he sends them kind of flying uncontrollably. And I don't want you throwing someone into another player in the back. Like I don't want you throwing someone into the quarterback. And it came close a couple times on it. I don't know why I came close and then didn't put close in my hands at all. But came close a couple times on it. I was there when Trevor Penning did it at the Senior Bowl. I forgot what year it was, but I was there watching Trevor Penning do it at the Senior Bowl, throwing a defender into his quarterback. I think it was a coach standing where the quarterback would stand. And so he threw a guy into a coach. I prefer to not see that happen in game. Outside of that, it's really good film. He's going to be a riser. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free, whether it's in the podcast and on YouTube. We will be back tomorrow at the absolute latest. For Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI, and I'll see you all next time.